our channel. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about cells. But before that, subscribe and also comment, thumbs up, and ring the notification bell. So, cells are the basic units of life on Earth. And did you know that the word cell comes from the Latin word cella? Cella means small room, from Latin to English. And you'll find out why it's called cella when we show you the diagram of a cell. So you can have many cells, multicellular, or only an organism can have one cell, or unicellular. Unicellular only means that they have one cell and only one cell. But multicellular, just like you, is made up of many cells. And each of them are different and have different jobs. So when it comes to cells, there are two categories of cells, namely prokaryotes that belong to archaea and bacteria, and they have a phalangellum that eukaryotes don't. And then there's eukaryotes, examples, animals and human beings. And also some many others we advise you to explore. So, there's two differences between these two. First, there's the nucleus. You might have heard about the nucleus, like the boss. Please, we'll be talking about the nucleus in another section of this video. So you have noticed that we have not put the nucleus in the prokaryotes. It's because they do not have one. But still, prokaryotes have an organelle that eukaryotes do not. It's called the phalangellum. And these phalangellums that are on the prokaryote cells help them to move around in the body. So it's not really useful for eukaryotes. So do you want to know how cells make you? It's simple. First there's one cell, then it turns into a tissue by other cells coming near it. And then those tissues clump together to make an organ, and those organs work with other organs to make an organ system. And many organ systems lead to a body or an organism. So that's how cells make you and other living creatures. So that's really a big process. And this is just simplification of it. There's more to learn about it, and it's a really amazing process called meiosis. And there's another one called mitosis. Those two are two different. They are two different things. So we advise you to explore more about them. So also, both of these things have another thing that they are not in common. Eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles, but prokaryotes do not. Membrane-bound organelles are organelles that have their own membrane, like the Golgi apparatus and the nucleus. They have their own, but prokaryotes don't. And the eukaryotes do have nucleus, and the nucleus holds their DNA. But prokaryotes don't, but they do have DNA. So it's located inside it, floating around it, inside the capsule of the prokaryote cell. So they have no membrane-bound organelles. That's all prokaryote. do not have.
And also a nucleus. So, to understand this, pro rhymes with no, and that means they have no nucleus
and no membrane-bound organelles. And U rhymes with do, and eukaryotes do have membrane-bound organelles and a nucleus.
So just understand it just like that, pretty easy. But now there's a fork in the road. Animal cells, which are your cells and our cells, your cells and also animal cells, and there's plant cells, which are still eukaryotes,
but they are different from the animal cells made of animals and us human beings.
We'll talk about that in another section of this video.
And that there is something called the cell cycle. And the cell cycle is the cycle that a cell goes through. So first, 90% of it is interphase, and the most percent of that is replicating its DNA and also doing our normal cell functions. But when it comes to meiosis, 10%, mitosis, it divides. And cancer cells do it the opposite way. The whole thing is mitosis and meiosis. There is no interphase.
And that's why they look different from the normal cells. But there are many cells in your body that frequently and naturally divide very frequently. Like your hair cells. That's why your hair grows really, really long.
And there's some cells in your body that don't even do mitosis and meiosis at all, like your nerve cells.
That's why an injury to your spinal cord or your brain is really bad for you, because some of those cells, most of those cells, do not know how to regenerate, like your skin. So do not try breaking one of those parts.
So now let's go to the next section.
So at this stage, we're going to do a little journey through the cell and see all the organelles, and we will tell you their functions. First, we have to go through the cell membrane. As the cell membrane is just to protect the cells inside.
And it's semi-permeable, meaning that it only allows some things in. But luckily, we have come in and we have met cytoplasm, shown in purple.
The cytoplasm is like a jelly-like liquid that allows all the organelles to float on top of it. It's just for giving the shape of it. Next, after we have gone to the nearest, we find ourselves near the Golgi body. So the Golgi body's job is to
detoxify. It's like the liver of the cell.
So that's what its job is for. And also, it's like the garbage bin of the cell. And it also makes lysosomes that do the same job, just for backup, just for the backup, understand?
So two organelles clean up the cell,
just in case one organelle explodes for some reason.
So we have talked about the cell membrane, cytoplasm, lysosomes, and the Golgi body,
or Golgi apparatus to be exact. Now let's go a little closer to the small ones, but really, really important. Let's go to the mitochondria.
It's a very long word.
Mitochondria.
And when you're talking about many of them, it's mitochondria actually. And when you're talking about one, it's mitochondria.
So mitochondria, shown as pink here, but they're not actually pink. Shown as pink here, they are really needed by the cell because they actually make ATP energy.
And your muscle cells has many mitochondria. Due to that, it's very strong. And that ATP energy makes it strong. And that's why you're strong.
Yes. And you should watch our photosynthesis video because we'll be explaining what ATP energy is, because it's a product of
photosynthesis, and it's also part of cells when it comes to plants.
So you watch that video after this one.
So
now the mitochondria make ATP energy, which the body needs. It's just the energy your parents talking about, that if you eat this food it will give you energy. They're just talking about ATP energy. So understand that.
So now let's go to the small organelles called the ribosomes, shown here as light green.
All the food that the cell gets after you have finished eating and sent to them by blood, what dissolves them so that the cell can use it and make ATP energy with the mitochondria comes in the ribosomes. It has digestive enzymes that digest all of the food that you got.
But if the cell is damaged, then these turn suicidal. And that's why they're called the suicidal bags. Then they explode and the digestive enzymes start eating the cell.
So that's the reason why they're also called suicidal bags. Next, we go closer and closer to the nucleus. Next is the smooth ER
and the rough ER. It's also known as endoplasmic reticulum, but we are just going to be calling it ER,
just to make it a little easier. It transports lots and lots
of proteins, like ribosomes.
It transports
proteins and nucleic acids that the cell needs.
It transports it to the rest of the cell so that the cell can do its cell duties
and functions.
So that's what the ER both do. But the smooth ER, the reason why it's called smooth ER is because it's actually smooth.
Yep, and the rough ER looks rough.
You know why? It's because lots of ribosomes are stuck on the rough ER. That's what makes it rough. If you stick something on a surface that is soft, it becomes rough, right?
That's the same for rough ER or endoplasmic reticulum.
That's what happened.
And sometimes ER is at the front of the rough ER, and it does the same process but smooth instead of rough.
So next we go to the brain of the cell, called the nucleus. It's not connected to the brain of the body, so don't think it's connected. The reason why it's called the brain of the cell is because it has DNA in eukaryotes. Remember that prokaryotes have their DNA floating just inside of them. They do not
have a nucleus.
That's why I said eukaryote, and that's why we only talk about eukaryotes. Sometimes there's a cell wall which only happens to some, but not animal cells, like plant cells and fungi cells, and some others have some cell walls, but animal cells do not.
And prokaryote cells have cell walls.
So, and another thing that can also be added here is called chloroplast, which can only be found in plant cells. And since plant cells are still part of eukaryotes, it can still be found. And also there's vacuoles that are only meant for the plant cells too. So there's many others that only belong to some of them, but not to our own. So just know this is only for our cells. So let's go to the cell. Some people ask themselves, what are my cells doing now? What are they doing now? What they are doing now is doing the cell cycle. The cell cycle is a cycle that a cell follows. It's interphase and then meiosis and mitosis.
Mitosis is when one cell, remember one cell, that is made out of 46 chromosomes. That's what some human beings have. Some have more than that. And have 46 chromosomes. And then it duplicates. And then there's 2 daughter cells, and both of them have 46 chromosomes. And then there is meiosis. And meiosis makes 4 daughter cells. But instead of 46 chromosomes for all of them, they start with 46 chromosomes and then they end with 23 chromosomes.
This one comes up. This one is bringing sex cells. Your dad gives you
a sperm cell and your mom gives you an egg cell. And the fancy name for them are called
gametes.
And together both of these gametes make a zygote or a fertilized egg.
And then it uses meiosis to break itself, to multiply itself over and over and over again until it has some sperm, some stem cells. Stem cells are unspecialized cells which turn into other cells. A sperm cell can turn from not specific on what job it's doing to like a heart cell, to a immune system cell. Watch our immune system video for that one, and many others.
So we have learned that stem cells can come into different types of cells and not stay the same forever.
And that's what your cells are doing most of the time.
But our body is very clever and it has some checkpoints. Like in those games that you always play. These checkpoints check if the cell has been replicating its DNA well and doing its daily cell functions well. If these 2 things are not correct, then the cell will find a way to come out of this checkpoint, or it will do something called apoptosis.
Apoptosis, it's when it sometimes self-destruct. And watch our immune system video, because some immune system cells help the cell to do apoptosis and explode it so it won't generate more of its types.
And cancer cells do not care about these checkpoints, and they keep doing mitosis
instead of doing interphase.
And they skip the checkpoints and they multiply too much. And what else is bad is that they get their own growth hormone. And growth hormones means that is this chemical that helps cells to get the food and energy they need. But then, as the cancer cell is getting this energy, it's also stealing energy from the normal or already still good cells that will need that. And if they don't have the food, they might start not working well and turn into another cancer cell.
And that's why our body has checkpoints to check if the cell is working well, if it is multiplying well. If it's not, it will do apoptosis.
But cancer cells do not do apoptosis
because our immune system cannot recognize them. Plus, watch our immune system video so that you can understand all of this, because most of the things we need to tell you are in that video. Also watch our photosynthesis video to learn more about the APT energy that the flowers make.
So we have talked about animal cells. Now it's time to talk about plant cells. And plant cells has vacuoles and also chloroplast. So nothing is gonna change a little bit, but there's gonna be chloroplast and vacuoles.
Vacuoles just store the food. Moving to plant cells, let's take some parts that plant cells have but animal cells do not have. So the first is vacuole or vacuoles. But to them, it's only a vacuole, only one. So these vacuoles are meant for storing food. Watch our photosynthesis video. That's how they store their food.
And then there's the chloroplast that is giving the green color to the plant.
Inside the chloroplast, there's chlorophyll. And that's what makes the plant green. Yes, that's how the plant is green.
And then next, there's the cell wall. This is for extra protection because of it has a cell membrane already. So the cell wall just protects it a little bit more. And it doesn't have that much uses except protecting it a little more.
Vacuoles, chloroplast, and cell wall. Cell wall are the only ones that fungi cells can have cell walls.
And also all prokaryotes can have cell walls because of they don't have cell membranes. So cell walls are the second most best thing.
So that's what the cell wall is for. The vacuoles are meant for storing food. The chloroplast is just for collecting sunlight to put in their mixture of photosynthesis. Watch our photosynthesis video and immune system video.
So we have come to the end of our video. Please subscribe and ring the notification bell. Stay home, stay safe, and have fun. Bye guys, and have a happy day.